Hello class, this is an introduction to short paper 2, how to get started. This is one of 3 videos that I'm going to make for short paper 2, and this first one's going to tell you how to graph the correlation between a growth variable and the primary source. The second one will tell you how to graph the correlation between a development variable and the primary source. And the third video will tell you how to write a multiple variable regression with the results and how to analyze those results. So let's get started. Now, you're probably wondering what a primary source is. Of course, we've already discussed this in class, but just as a quick reiteration, the primary source is the driver of your GDP or the driver of your GNI. What is the primary source for why one or both of these variables have been increasing in recent years for your country? Is it because they've expanded and opened their economy to international trade? Is it because they've invested heavily in the service sector? Is it a certain industry? Is it technology that has led to the growth of their economy more than anything else? So you have to do some research to identify the primary source. So you're wondering why Ghana's back up here and why I have the CIA World Factbook. It's because this is a good resource for helping you to identify the primary source. You probably already know from short paper 1, but if you don't, you can use this as a guide to help get you there. So I'm going to look at Ghana and scroll down a little bit here, and I want to know for Ghana, the composition by sector is right here. And this is useful because it's going to tell you essentially what are the primary sectors within the Ghanaian economy that are strongest or highest as a percentage of GDP. So services, look at that, 41% services are driving GDP. So the service sector is a very important sector in Ghana. Agriculture is very important, so is industry. Industry is very broad, you don't know which one, but industry in general, manufacturing, is 24.7%. But services by far is the largest sector within the Ghanaian economy, and it is a driver of the economy. So services are my primary source of growth. And to confirm that, you can also kind of look in the details here, and you can see the service sector accounts for 50% of GDP. And there's probably some other language in here about the service sector. So without doing a great deal of research, I have identified what is the primary source of my economic growth in Ghana. In other words, as the service sector grows, it's going to be it's going to have a significant impact on the GDP of my country, Ghana. So I'm going to focus on that service sector. Now, where do I get service data? Well, go back to the World Bank data bank. And so I already have it open. And what I'm going to do is just type in services. And you'll see many of these entries here have services in them. But I'm going to go straight to services. Let's see here. Yeah, let's use services, current dollars, and value added. It's not as important, but I want services, etc., because it's capturing my services information. So I'll choose this. I'll choose one of the growth variables, GDP or GNI. I'll choose 1990 to the most present year I have, and then I'll export all of that to Excel. And here it is right here. So I have services, etc., value added, current US dollars in millions. I have GDP, current US dollars in millions, and primary education. I'll get to that later. But really, I'm most concerned about these two variables right here. Now, according to that information I just read, services should be about 40% of GDP. So it's close. 22 of 58, 24 of 66, 24 of 64. So in some points, GDP is getting a little higher than services, other points not as high. But in general, it does provide me with that type of analysis. It gives me that understanding, and it confirms what I read. So that's important. Now that I have my data prepared for me, and I have the years 1990 all the way to 2008, how do you create the graph of the correlation? It's not that hard, really. Let's take a look. First, what we're going to do, we're going to grab the column A, and we're going to drag it all the way to the end of the data. We're going to click Insert, and we're going to click on, let's make a line graph. You can do a bar graph, column graph. I just prefer line graphs, and just 2D line graph. Okay, and you're almost done, because look at that. You've already got labels for your y-axis, labels for your x-axis, though these labels are wrong, and you have your legend. So since they're wrong, let's fix these things up. So click on Select Data, and in Select Data you can better choose your data points. So first of all, do you see this blue line here? We don't need that at all, so we're going to click Country Name Series and remove that. And do you see the x-axis here? Absolutely wrong, because that gives us no good information. We need some years here. So what we're going to do is, this is the horizontal axis, so we're going to edit the horizontal axis label. So click that, and what we want here are the years. So we're going to click right inside here and grab all the years, and then click OK. And let's OK out of this. And then let's expand this a little bit. And here we have it. This is almost done. So what we have here is the green line representing Ghanaian GDP and the red line representing Ghanaian services. Of course, you're not done. You don't have your title, and you don't have your source, but in general, you're about 90% there with the body of the graph. If you want to input some other aspects of this, you go to the layout function, and if you want to put a chart title, you can click a chart title above the chart, and in here you can put Ghana 1990 to 2008. Okay, and move that properly there. There we go. Okay, and you have a title. Of course, you want to make that a little bit smaller, and also you may want to do this in Word. So, but at the end of the day, you have some core information. Another useful thing you can do here is to fix your legend. It's a little far to the right there, so if you click on legend, you can put the legend, let's see, let's add it right below. So now you have the legend below, a little neater there. And also axis titles. For the vertical axis title, you can put that to the right, and here you want to put some information, perhaps millions, although it's down here, so it's up to you where you want to put it. I'm just showing you some options. And also axis titles, horizontal title, you can put it right below, and here would be years, and then you can move this back over. So again, you get a general idea of how this can look. One option you have here for fixing the chart would, or the graph, would be to kind of shorten up this area here. It's a little lengthy, so to fix that, you want to go right here, and you can now delete it. It was a good guide before, but now you have axis title, so you don't necessarily need this. Okay, looks a little better there. And over here, you can add current dollars and a million. Just looks a little cleaner when you do stuff like this. Much better looking graph. Notice how the numbers here are quite jumbled, so you might want to pull this out a little so they got a little space between them. Now here's another issue. You may have noticed this as I was working on this. You know, the Ghanaian GDP, it's pretty clear to read that. You just, it goes up and you can correlate it with the current dollars and millions. But notice how the services doesn't change much, nor does GDP, but also it's below the 5,000. So you're kind of in this dead space area where you don't have a lot of information. Is it 2,000? Is it 1,000 down here? I mean, it's hard for almost 15 years. It's hard to actually say what services is. So one way to do that is just to create a double y-axis graph. So let me show you that. You click on the data that you want to put on the other axis. What we're going to do is we're going to put another y-axis over here. So we're going to have two axes, two y-axes. So right there and right here. So if I click on this data and then I right click, I just go to Format Data Series and I choose Secondary Axis and hit Close. So what just happened? Well, what just happened was I was able to create another axis over here which represents the data for services. So that's pretty good stuff. So now instead of calling this just current dollars in millions, right, I'm going to say that this is Ghana GDP current dollars in millions. And then I'm going to add over here where I'm going to change the layout. Okay, and this is going to be an axis title. And it's the secondary vertical axis title, and we want to put it right there. So Excel, you can do anything. So this is going to be Ghana Services, and again, this is also going to be current dollars in millions. And let me fix this up a little. Okay, let me click off and that'll stretch out a little bit. So it's a much nicer graph now because on the right side I can use this axis information to actually say what's going on with the red line, Ghana Services, and I can use the left side data to indicate what's going on in terms of the Ghanaian GDP. So what we have is a very clean, very organized graph. And of course I'll take this a little bit, slide it over, get it in the middle there, maybe make the font size a little smaller. You all know how to do that. But at the end of the day, what we have here is the following. In 1995, services was approximately 2,000 million or $2 billion, as you can see by looking at the right-hand y-axis. And in 1995, we have Ghana GDP at approximately, let's call that about 6,000 million or $6 billion. And if we look at 2005, when we say Ghana Services, we would say that that's approximately 2,100 million or $2.1 billion of current dollars. And in 2005, we have 10,000 million current dollars or 10 billion current dollars of Ghana GDP. So that's how we would read it. The left-hand side would be representative of Ghana GDP data, and the right-hand side would be representative of Ghana Services data. So that's it for this tutorial on showing the correlation between the growth variable and the primary source variable. The next video you should watch discusses the correlation between the development variable and the primary source variable. Enjoy!